it's really an untapped audience for us because we are so heavy in traditional. And really, when you're talking about Twitch, you're talking about, gamers, these young males and females, but mostly young males, 18 to 34, 18 to 49. So those are really folks who are not heavy TV users, and they're on social, but they may be on Snapchat and TikTok, whereas we're more focused on Instagram and Facebook. So we just weren't capturing those folks before. So I think we're going to be reaching, actually the campaign launched on Monday, we're now reaching a whole new audience segment that we weren't capturing before. We were seeing them on YouTube and talking to them there, but this really expands our the ability to communicate with that group.
Welcome, everybody, to Fast Forward the Conversation. Special episode today. I'm sitting here with Shelby Clement, Group Planning Director from our Dallas office. And I think we've got a very timely story as we're getting here. It's middle of October. And that date, I think, is very interesting just in terms of the story as we would tell it here. We've got a client of ours in the QSR space, and we've got a market focus with a new product coming to life, right, Shelby? And that presents some opportunities, but also some challenges. If you would give the audience a little insight into just maybe the hurdles that are in play, how we're thinking about the offering, and some of the challenges, right, that we're navigating and continuing to try to serve as that bold strategic advisor for our client, help them navigate these unique and ever-changing media waters.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be here. So this QSR client resides in Florida. They're a regional brand, really across all major markets in Florida. And they this year have a new product launch, new sandwich they were launching. And this was actually supposed to happen in July, but due to everything that happened in the world, beginning in March, things that got pushed. So the sandwich launch is actually going on right now, and is happening here in October, which you might have heard there's a little thing called an election going on. And being in Florida, Florida is getting hit with the most political spending of any state. Actually, just from just a few weeks ago through election time, there will be over $100 million spent in that market. So we were planning on launching in July, but now we're looking at, we were looking at an October launch right ahead of political, where all these political dollars were to come in and leave us possibly without our core anchor tactic of TV to get awareness about the new product launch. That is, really kind of our go-to when we're launching a new product, just for broad awareness, to drive trial and really get the message out. So looking at high pricing in Florida, to get in there, you're up against, of course, all the political, local, national, as well as local advertisers. So pricing was not looking favorable. It's really inflated. There's also a lot of risk that comes along with, trying to be in there. You can get bumped out quite easily. So we didn't want to hang our hats on TV and possibly have an ineffective campaign, just given preemption possibilities. So what we've done, through looking back at some of our Google reporting, it's called an Audience Explorer report. As a preferred agency, we have access to some of the Google, experts, and they were able to show us specific consumer profiles of who was watching our videos, our past LTO promotions, to 100%. So we took a look at that and identified that there's a gamer segment that has popped out that is just really engaged with the brand, and it's something that we need to nurture further.
So we've got a QSR story with a limited time offer that's launching, a typical tactic broadcast, quite frankly, off the table, not available due to the election. Did some homework with the team in terms of trying to find this insight of where else we can find an audience and a niche up here, right? In terms of this gaming audience.
Gaming audience.
All of that done in a pretty tight window, because typically, planning, I think, as we've experienced with COVID, is what once was this is now this, no matter what it is. And it's probably multiple iterations of plans. Walk me through the work that you all did, right? So you've got this insider, you've got this thread that you think is unique in terms of not only the restaurant itself, but the audience. Where do you take it next, or how do we start applying thinking to that, where we think we might have something?
Sure. Well, it's really an untapped audience for us because we are so heavy in traditional, and then really when you're talking about Twitch, you're talking about gamers, these young males and females, but mostly young males, 18 to 34, 18 to 49. So those are really folks who are not heavy TV users, and they're on social, but they may be on Snapchat and TikTok, whereas we're more focused on Instagram and Facebook. So we just weren't capturing those folks before. So I think we're going to be reaching, actually the campaign launched on Monday, we're now reaching a whole new audience segment that we weren't capturing before. We were seeing them on YouTube and talking to them there, but this really expands our, the ability to communicate with that group.
So Twitch obviously is a unique channel, maybe one that someone that's watching or viewing this is familiar with, maybe not familiar with. Twitch is not a standalone, though, media tactic, right? As we think about this launch or relaunch of this limited time offer, what other pillars are part of that strategy, or how are we thinking about that? Again, because you don't have broadcast, right? It's not available to you. So how else are we thinking about getting those eyeballs, generating that awareness, again, given this unique time before we hit November 3rd?
Right. So with the inventory pressures on broadcast and not being able to run our anchor tactic like we do normally, we went looking for those eyeballs. And outdoor, with a new product launch, we need mass awareness to get a trial of that new product. So outdoor became our next best tactic to go to for that reach. We're also surrounding these campaigns with mobile, social, and YouTube, geofenced around the store locations so that we're just saturating the immediate trade areas, not going too deep into the market.
I think it's interesting too because Florida is one of the more open states, in terms of their business, and I think that the uniqueness there of out of home might play differently, and certainly will play differently in Florida that may in another state that might have other restrictions or shutdowns or limitations on the types of businesses that might be open.
You're absolutely right, Zach. And while I've not been able to travel to Florida the past couple of months, from what I've heard, is that people are out and about, and it's very much business as usual, with a few masks here and there.
Yeah, so. I have a neighbor right across the street from me. They own a place in Naples, and they typically go down there for the winter. And he talked about that. They were down there a few weeks ago, and he said, it's very much in terms of traffic patterns, business as usual, places being busy. So I think that's a unique piece to the strategy. We were talking just before we started recording here. I thought you had a really interesting insight into the trackability of it, right? The immediacy of this. Obviously, any sort of QSR, limited time offer, we want to have cause and effect at play. Albeit we're not entirely in control of the effect, outcome, sales. We do provide that visibility somewhat immediately to the client. You were talking about our Domo dashboards being updated as that sales data is pumped in. Talk about how the team digests that, right? How we built that up to have, I would say, as fast as we can, that visibility to knowing, we've gone down a path of a unique test, what's working, what's not. How do we digest that information?
Sure. So we're very fortunate to have a close relationship with this client where they trust us with their sales and transactions. We get that data dumped into Domo weekly through a secure upload. So we're able pretty quickly to dig in. We can actually go in at a product level. We can go down to a store level, but really go from a very high level of either, I tend to look at transactions because, again, that's what we can most affect with media. Once I get someone to the store, the sales, hopefully they're upselling and driving that check.
Yeah.
But really it's transactions that I'm looking at. We're looking, overall transactions, right? We're looking at, did the media at a high level lift transactions overall? We're also looking at what happened to the sale of that product, the sandwich. What happened to the sale of our other handhelds? Are people just trading off? And so initially, when you launch a new product, you do have a lot of trade-off, but over time, what you're looking to do is hopefully build that base of sales. And with what they're the product that the client has, it's a product line of sandwiches, and I think there's a lot of upside there for them on this this new platform they have.
So that last piece I thought is impactful in thinking about where are we going, right? So we've got data that we're looking at right now. Help me understand what's on the horizon, right? The influx of dollars pouring into those marketplaces, probably even more heavily in the next few weeks, right? Until the election happens. What changes on the back end of that from a strategic standpoint? Obviously we're doing a review. We've got some new channel partners in play. How is the team thinking about that? Because they're two very different media windows in terms of the execution path. How are we applying the thinking there in terms of strategic angle looking forward post-election?
Sure. Well, post-election, we're still going to have a little bit of backup in the TV space, in that advertisers that were wanting to advertise September, October may have delayed their plans to November. So we're still going to have some inventory pressure that we're anticipating. We do have TV that's going to be on the plan, but we are still surrounding with heavy levels of digital that's very targeted to make sure that we deliver that message. I would say, our metrics pre-COVID versus during COVID versus after this election, everything is constantly changing. So we're really trying to be here for the client, at their beck and call for any questions they have, any ways that we can bring them more information to make informed decisions about their business is really our job. And I'm just trying to support them the best, teams trying to support them the best we can.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the conversation. I think it's been it's incredibly insightful. I really appreciate. I hope the audience will appreciate the perspective, right? And just thinking about a very dynamic marketplace in terms of, like you said, there was pre-COVID, there was COVID. Now we have COVID plus election in a highly contested state, right? All the things that you might say, oh, how could you stack a deck against a media plan? You would put all of those probably at the top, right? In terms of challenges or hurdles we may have to overcome. And I just I don't know if fun is the right word, but I apply fun to the way and think about or navigate or take a challenge back to the team and say, okay, look, but it's the same for everybody, right? So we have to find a way through. And I appreciate you taking the time to guide us through how we're, again, thinking about that, providing that perspective, and then also, I think, acting that unique insight into the new audience and acting as a bold advisor and saying, hey, look, let's turn the spotlight over here. This is a place we haven't been. Let's give it a try. I love the insight. So thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yep. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.